Hey guys, so next we'll go ahead and work on the battery box setup. So this is a cheap El Cheapo AliExpress battery I bought a bunch of them. I actually used this on my previous skateboard build and I really like it. Number one thing is that it's really strong. I've scratched it a bunch of times. It's really thick. It's 6 millimeters thick, or 1/4 inches. So I think this is a good option for DIYers. And I know the trend right now is going with something really long like this for one stack. So it'll be like one layer of battery. But most of my batteries are double stacked, because the reason why I built it like that is because I didn't want to make it too long. If you make it too long, then you're gonna have problems with flex, and you're gonna have to actually design the battery pack. It's flexy, and you're gonna have to find a flexy case. This one I don't really like. This is not gonna protect your battery. All right, even in small and mild accident, this can come cracking, and I got this case came cracked. All right, so I really like this option, so long as you use some bunch of risers. If you're using wheels 90 millimeters or higher, clearance should be okay. The main important thing is this thing is very solid. Now you can get this on AliExpress, Banggood, a bunch of different places. The only problem with this, it comes actually like this. So there's these tabs, but you can simply remove them. Just get some wire cutters or use Dremel and just cut it out, and that's how I did it. And let's see how, basically the idea is that there's a bunch of holes here, and I'm gonna actually make it into a bunch of slots. And then I'm gonna, let me show you. So for VESC, I'll be using Flipsky Dual FSESC 26.6, we just call it a Flipsky VESC. I really like the Flipsky Dual ones because you don't have to mess with two different controllers and connect it with CAN bus. Everything's integrated, so you just have one controller to deal with. It comes with your Hall sensor connectors. Alright, this is to connect, it's adapter to connect to your motor Hall sensor. 2 of those. It does come with a micro USB cable and the diagram guiding. So if you look on here, it's going to tell you where the wirings are. Your Hall sensors are going to be this one and this one. So on the Flipsky 6.60 Dual Plus or any of the Dual Flipskys, you'll see number 1 and number 2. So this is the primary VESC, and this is going to be your slave. Now most of them are configured for dual out of the box, so you don't have to do anything. Some of them have switches. I don't think this one actually has a switch. So you're going to connect your Hall sensor here, alright, for this motor. They have to match. This motor, the Hall sensor, you're going to connect here. Alright? And also you have an anti-spark switch. Alright? This is your switch. And this is also anti-spark, I think rated around 200 amps or something. So if something shorts or something gets dangerous, the VESC will protect, the anti-spark in it will protect your battery from exploding. This, you can use it for your remote control. Alright? For your Bluetooth, you can insert it onto the second one here. I always use the second one. With Bluetooth module, you always have to put it on the second of the VESC Dual. I don't put it on the first, you put it on the second. Then you can program both motors using that. Alright, I'm gonna do a fit test here, and I personally really don't like leaving the shrink wrap. It looks nice and all, but you see how it's insulating the metal, which is supposed to be your heat sink and supposed to cool down. So it's sort of ironic. You have a really nice heat sink, but it's insulated with this plastic because you need some airflow to get that nice cooling effect from the heat sink. So I'm gonna just cut it out. This is like completely useless. I mean, sometimes you can just leave it on if you're building like low power boards, or if you're going just on flat ground. But I live on hills, so the VESC will heat up if I don't find a way to cool it down. And basically what will happen is if you go up a hill for more than like 10 minutes straight, your VESC will heat up and your board will just slow down to crawl to nothing. This is why you absolutely need some kind of cooling, or you can have a bunch of holes in your battery box and have it, have air coming in. You can do that too, but obviously that's not going to be too waterproof. To mitigate that situation, my best option that I found was on this battery box particularly, I would just mount the VESC right on here, and then you'll see that the heatsink part is exposed on the bottom here. But the holes are smaller than my liking. So what I'm probably gonna do is just cut out some bigger holes. And we'll just put some resin epoxy over it to make it waterproof. Because this part here, I'm gonna just make sure to expose sort of the middle part. So doing it like this, I see that some of the holes are exposed, so I might cover up with resin later. But I'm gonna make a basically maybe like a small rectangle here to expose the center of the VESC, and then I'll put epoxy over it to waterproof it. That way the heat sink while you ride is gonna get all that cold air, and it's gonna hit the heat sink, and you're gonna get very good cooling. Alright, there's many other ways to do it, but this is a short proven one that worked on my other board with the same battery box, so I'm gonna go ahead and try the same thing. Now I'll go ahead and cut out a small rectangle. So that's the battery box I'm using. But before we do anything, we need to actually connect a couple things. We need to connect a battery connector. The VESCs do not come with connectors. The Flipsky ones don't. And this will have to connect with bullet connectors that came with your Flipsky motors. Alright, most motors will ship with bullet connectors, so use whatever that came with it. For Flipsky 6374, you have these nice little bullet connectors. You're gonna insert the wire here, and then you're gonna solder it. Alright, so let me go ahead and solder all these up. For XT90 connector, get the one with the caps. You can also use XT60, but since I'm using 12S, I would recommend XT90. If you're using 10S, XT60 should be fine. Make sure you use the male version for the VESC, as the battery will have female holes. Okay guys, first we're gonna go ahead and solder up the XT90 connector. Now make sure you note positive goes this side positive and the other side negative. Also the sleeve will just go on like that, so make sure to put it in the sleeve here before start soldering. Just fit perfectly there. Alright, just get it in there first. And go ahead and use like a vice grip. So there's some weight to it. Now before you solder, make sure it fits in the hole. This one is a little bit too big. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it off a little bit. Get a nice flush fit before you start soldering. And that looks almost there, maybe just a tad more. Sorry, I lost my other scissors. These are old gardening scissors I got from my mom when she moved out her old house. Okay, that's gonna fit perfectly flush. And this one also almost. Yeah, it's a little too thick. No, don't do that. That's not good. No. So I'm actually gonna hold it sideways like this. Okay, go ahead and put a bunch of solder on the ends here. Sort of move it around so it's nicely coated with a lot of solder, just like that. You can heat up your soldering gun a little bit hotter than normal. So usually it's at 660, but I have it at 740. Right, maybe like 800. And this way, when you solder it on, what you're gonna do is just lay it on there, and you're just gonna hold down, and then the solder will eventually melt, and it will make a connection. So I'm gonna just go ahead and hold it down like that. Apply a little force downwards. Wait until it gets hot enough where the solder melts, and apply solder from the bottom a little bit Maybe give it a couple seconds, 1, 2, until it starts melting. Alright, and then go ahead and push from the top. And once solder has dried, apply a little bit more solder on top. And make sure you use good solder. This is really good stuff. Don't get the cheap stuff like at the hardware store. It makes a huge difference when you solder, and also your safety. Good solder will last forever. And once that's in there, just make it nice and smooth. No jarred edges or anything like that. I'm gonna go ahead and apply a little bit more solder on this side. Smooth it out. And I'm going to apply a little bit more solder on this side where the wire is sort of exposed. You can also just put it on the solder and sort of just apply it after too. Now this is the most important part. If this breaks, your board will stop. So take your time and get it done right. If you mess it up, just make sure you have enough XT connectors so you can keep trying. But once you have a very good tight connection, just do a fit test, and that's real tight on there. Next, we're going to go ahead and move up to the other negative side. And I'm going to go ahead and apply a bunch of solder inside here. Once that's in there, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to actually get it to a little bit hotter. I'm going to get it to 800. That way it just sort of heats up real fast. Just hold down on it until everything starts melting away. Looks pretty good. Go ahead and apply a little bit more solder on top of it. Alright, it's finally done. Double check it's real strong. Alright, it should not come off at all. Twist it a little bit. Alright, that looks really tight. Alright, go ahead and close the sleeve. Alright, just go ahead and push in with like a screwdriver in the middle like that to lock it in if it doesn't work. But that's real tight. That's never going to come off. So very good soldering. Took me almost 20 minutes, 30 minutes to do this, but this is the most important part of your VESC, so just spend the time on it. If you mess up, just try again. But take your time. Like I said, that's the life and death part of your electric skateboard. Now, whenever you're working on the soldering, make sure to stay away. Don't get your solder above the VESC. Sometimes you can spill VESC over it. And next, we're going to go ahead and insert the bullet connectors. This should be a lot easier stuff. So what you want to do is find out where you're going to have to insert it. Right? And just use a vice grip. And just hand tighten your vice grip so it's not too tight. And you're going to simply fill up with solder like halfway, okay? So just fill it up. You don't have to do it full. That's a little full. Once the solder is in place, for this particular bullet, you'll see there's actually a hole. There's actually a hole. It's like an overfill hole for the solder. Now go ahead and point this up and then go slightly angled like that and clamp it down with your vice grip. Alright, and make sure it fits in there. Make sure your wires fit in there. This one is a little too large, so I'm gonna just make a slightly angled cut. I use some nice scissors. These are my mom's garden scissors. And you see how it's a little bit angled, so it's really easy to just pop in. You can go ahead and just basically, you can go ahead and heat it up, right, from the bottom. And you're gonna wait till the inside solder melts. All right, starts melting, and then go ahead and insert it. Start inserting your wire. Oops, sorry. Make sure you hold the vice grip. All right, make sure it fits in there. And I'm just gonna go ahead and hold it down. This way, make sure you can sort of clamp it down. Sort of hold down your clamp so it doesn't move. And then what you're gonna do is heat it up and push it in. That's what I was trying to do, but I'm trying to show you guys, and I didn't really have the right angle. Boy. And that way the solder just complete melts and you get a nice connection there. Alright, that looks really good. So you should have 6 bullet connectors. Of course, you'll want to apply some heat shrink. You can get this heat shrink. Now for this particular connection, you don't want it coming off again. So you can get this these nice connectors that have adhesive inside. So as it heat shrinks, it also basically attaches to it. So it's safer than regular heatsink. Now I'm gonna cut it up to the top. So it covers up. So I'm just gonna measure out so it covers the whole metal. That way the metal's not exposed. You can even have it coming out a little bit. Alright, like a little cover. So just fit it in just like that. Perfect. And I'm going to just go ahead and cut out some more. Alright, fit it just perfect. So it's nice and insulated well. Now you can use different colors for the 2 different motors, so you can easily tell the wires are for the other motor. So I'm going to actually use red for the other side. Alright, let's use a heat shrink and shrink wrap this. Just twist it a little bit as you do it. And you can see they look very nice. They're nice and tight. And now you should have the battery terminals and also the 6 bullet connectors. And we're ready to pretty much put it on the board. Hi guys, so I've received the other motors, and I've also received the new belts. Alright. So I'm going to do a quick dry fit test. Make sure you have a washer in there. Alright, you want to do a fit test with the washer in there, because even though it's a small difference, it can make difference. So let me go ahead and fit this wheel in there. Oops. Put the belt in there first. Let's go ahead and put the wheel in there. And let me actually loosen the motors a little bit. And I got that shortest setting, and let me see if it fits that shortest setting. And boom shakalaka. Oh, that's a perfect fit. Actually, it's at the shortest setting, and you got a nice slightly loose. All right, so perfect size for it. Now do a test. Wow, that looks really good. Make sure the belt's not hitting any of the belt's looking really good. I can actually, so fits pretty good, fits perfectly, fits perfectly. Now since this has a belt tensioner, so I don't have to bother taking it out really. So that fits pretty good. But I do have to redo the pulley screw, so take it out. And we're gonna go ahead and apply some Loctite so the grub screws don't come out while you ride. A very important part of building a skateboard. So go back to your grub screws, and I'm gonna take this out. Take one of your grub screws out, and leave the other ones because you got the pulley in there, and obviously it's set already. And let me carefully take it out. You can either use Thread Locker 242 blue, right, or you can use I've got this orange Thread Locker from Permatex. It's supposed to be stronger than the blue, but has strength of red. I really like it. It seems to be work a little better. Just apply a very good amount all around it. Okay, it's just literally covered in this orange stuff, and I'm gonna just go ahead and screw it back in. And guys, very important, don't go right away. Let your thread locker cure for at least 24 hours. So don't get impatient. I used to do this and I would just go right after, and sometimes they can come loose. So you want it really cured. You want to be safe. Just wait full 24 hours and then ride it after your screws have dried. So that's in there. I'm gonna grab the other grub screw, and I like to just apply a drip here on top. You can also have it going into the hole also. Just do a drop into the hole if you want. Alright, let me go ahead and tighten this down. You can also put like something like a Loctite 603 or 609 for the cylindrical, and that really makes it permanent. But I find that you don't really have to. I find that these grub screws are plenty with Loctite. I've never had them come off. They actually get stuck. Sometimes I try to change out the pulleys. So sometimes they just sort of get fused in there after a couple rides. Alright, that's in there. I'm going to go ahead and put the wheels back. And let me change the camera angle so you can see this important part, the coolest feature of this. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and put the wheel in with the motor moving back and forth. Alright, and this screw right here is the belt tensioner. So we're going to go ahead and basically tighten the motor screws after we tighten it. Because obviously you're not going to be able to tighten it if you already screw in the motor screws. So let me go ahead and put this on here. Alright. Uh-oh. Hold on. Sometimes the bearing comes off, so make sure your bearing's in there tight. I'm gonna go ahead and push it in here real quick. Make sure your bearing's flush on there before you put it on, because it's gonna look different. Alright, let me put it back on now. Make sure you have a washer and align the washer with something small, and then just put the wheels on there slowly, nicely. Alright, go ahead and screw in the wheels first, because you want to make sure it's tightly on there. And in case your bearing moved, this will guarantee that the wheel's sitting flush against the trucks. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten it all the way. And maybe do a quarter turn back. And it's pretty tense over here. Let me go ahead and tighten the screw, the tension screw here. Okay, that's a little too tight. Let me see. Let me make it as tight as possible. Okay, that's as tight as possible. And my wheels are a little stuck, so I'm gonna loosen the tension a little bit until it's this. I get a nice free action here. Yeah, that's a lot better. So just a little bit loose, and I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these motor screws. Alright, and also down here. Again, you don't need Loctite because this is actually connecting to the plate. The beauty of Haggyboard motor mounts. So you just have to tighten it, alright, because there's a nylon nut. Feels pretty good. And let me go ahead and tighten this other nut that's hiding here. So it looks really good. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. I also got these pet sleeves. All right, this is gonna protect your wires, and it sort of expands. And this way it keeps it real clean, and I'm gonna have it just going out like that. All right, so let me do the other side. I'll be back. Hi guys, so I'm pretty much ready to go. I've connected the motor connectors. They can be in any order because you can change it in VESC. So connect your motor controller. Also, you'll need to connect to a battery. Next, we're gonna go ahead and connect the adapter for the hall sensors. So plug it in, and also go ahead and plug it in. All right. And then I'm going to connect this one to this motor here, and also this connector to here. Alright, the hall sensor, it should be like that. So you guys can see the top two. You guys can see hall sensors there. Now if you don't want to bother with programming with your laptop, plus eventually you're going to want to change all your values out while you ride, parameters such as, so that way you can test it on the go. Otherwise what happens is you have it in the box, take it out, you have to take it out from the box and then connect it to your programming laptop. It's just not viable. Just get one of these $10 Flipsky ones, and I do everything on my phone now. And go ahead and connect to the second one, alright, which is going to be the one at the end here, and connect the Bluetooth to the second slave of VESC. So you have the Bluetooth module connected, and I've got a VX2 Flipsky remote. This is actually brand new. This is actually first time trying it. It comes with a connector. If you're using VX1, refer to the instructions on how to connect. But for this one, it comes with this here, and you're gonna just connect it on the other side of the Bluetooth, so the first one there. Now, very important, you'll have to switch some of the wires here because I got it for the V4. You can order it for V6. Basically, it's slightly different wiring. So I wanted to clear up the wiring here. So that's how I got it connected. This is the remote. So it should be red on this left hand, followed by third by white, and then for fifth is green, and sixth is red. The first thing you're gonna do is go ahead and download the VESC app, VESC tool app. There's a bunch of different ones. Just get the VESC tool with that logo. You can download on the Play Store. Donate $1.99, which I highly recommend. Which helps Benjamin Vetter, who made this open source. Or you can also get the free APK on his site. All right. Go ahead and open the app. Make sure Bluetooth is on. Go ahead and scan, and you should see VESC Blue UART. Go ahead and connect, and go ahead and rename it to something you can remember. So this is going to be my Mad Max, so I'm going to just rename it. If you have multiple devices later, you're going to be able to find it easier. The first thing you're going to do is, I showed you how to do this before many times on my channel. You're going to go ahead and install the firmware. Always install the firmware. Go ahead and just hit upload all. Default, it should be 60 for VESC 6.60. Hit upload, say yes, okay. And yeah, make sure you have enough battery. And you can see I have full battery. My BMS is completely turned on. I do have a full tutorial guide on how to build your own Samsung 40T12S2P battery. I like this battery because it's got a lot of power, 344 watt hour. It's not a huge battery where it's gonna make your board like, 30 pounds. My last build was about 21 pounds. But it's a plenty battery where you can go almost 20-25 miles on flat ground if you go slow. For my hills, I do about 10 to 12 miles because I live on very steep hills, and it just takes a ton more battery to go up and down the hills, go up the hills. So let the firmware flash, and the good thing is my remote's already working, which is really good. So I'm pretty much ready to go. Just make sure your motor runs okay before you put the battery box and everything. So that's what we're doing. I'll be back when this is completely done. Okay guys, once you have uploaded the firmware, go ahead and reconnect, and you should see a nice green. That means you have the right firmware. First thing you obviously want to do is FOC. Say yes. You're going to choose a medium outrunner for all skateboard motors, pretty much. Choose medium outrunner, hit next. Yes. And here you're going to put a number of your battery series. If it's 10S2P, 10S3P, 10S4P, it's going to be 10. 12S2P like this, it's going to be 12. Alright, and battery capacity, go ahead and put in your battery capacity. Mine is 8 amp hours or 8,000 milliamp hours. Hit next, hit OK. And also set your wheel diameter. This will help you get the correct distancing later. If you log your trips, you're going to be able to see exactly how fast you go. Log your GPS. I'm using 1636. Number of poles, 14 is fine for most motors. Hit run detection and hit OK. And this will figure out the maximum motor current and blah blah blah. And if you get an error, sometimes it happens, just hit it again. And it should work the second time. Second time's always the charm. Oops. Alright, try again. Maybe the third time it's going to be the charm. Sometimes there's issues, but most of the time it'll work right out of the gate here. There we go. You usually see some lights, and you usually see sound, and then the motor is rolling. And go ahead and check that your motor's belts are working correctly. Alright, check your spacing. Looks very, very good. Nothing's hitting. I think this is going to work out just perfect. Alright, so I'm really excited. This is going to be my... And you can see the BMS, now it's going from full battery to not full battery as your skateboard uses some energy. This is why I love the app, because you can do everything with Bluetooth. So you got 69 amps for both, nearly same values, and it says Hall sensors. That means your Hall sensor has been set, your motor current has been set. Hit OK. Alright, next you're going to go ahead and, this is where you're going to be able to change direction. I'm going to go forward, so the wheels should go this way. So hit forward, and you can see this wheel is going right to left, and also the other wheel right to left. So I didn't have to change the wiring, it's perfect, so hit finish. If it goes the opposite, you can try invert it and change the direction. Finish, we're good to go. The first thing you want to do, very, very important, go to general and go to current. And you can see that the FOC wizard has set my motor current max automatically. Brake automatically also. Now I do suggest setting this to about half, because you don't need such a high power brake. So just set it to like half of your motor max value, because it's bad for your battery to apply too big of a brake. Half this should be fine. Very, very important, your battery current max. This is the maximum discharge rate of your battery. So for the cells I'm using, Samsung 40T, it's 35 amps and at all times, and 45 amps under 80 degrees Celsius. Now I would keep this lower than the specified value of your battery. That will help your battery last longer. So I'm gonna just set it to 70. Since it's rated, since it's a 2P, you multiply whatever the P value. So this is 35 amps per cell in series, multiplied by 2, so I get 70 amps current max. Alright, and also battery max regen. This is when you're braking and regenerating battery. Again, you can set it to something around half. I'll just set it to -30. You don't have to have it super high. What you're really worried about is the battery current max. Now I'm using BMS bypass, which means that my battery will not cut off if I use more than 70 amps. My battery will never cut off because I'm bypassing it. If you're using a BMS, you have to figure out also what your BMS cutoff current is. And if that's 50 amps and you're using it on battery pack like this, even though your battery pack is rated for 70, if you go over 50, your battery's gonna cut off, you're gonna fly off your board, you might potentially kill yourself, etc, etc, etc. So make sure you know what the exact value of BMS is, and I would actually set it even lower for the battery max. And if you don't do this, like I said, VESC tool likes to default to 99 amps, and that can cause serious injury. So when that's all done, hit right. All right, next, very important, go to voltage, and your voltage cutoff end is basically the cutoff cells. So most battery packs, you do want to cut it off around 3 volts per cell. Since I'm using 12, that's 12 times 3 equals 36. Alright, so that will be automatically set when you do the FOC wizards. But sometimes this value can be different from what you set up, so just double check. If you're using 10S, this should be 30 volts. Or you can even set this higher. This is basically when your VESC gonna decide to slow down and not use any more battery. Alright, when your VESC says, oh, we're depleted. Now, if you want to get better battery life, you can set this a little bit higher, so your board will never deplete past like 10%. Alright, but these cells can actually go, I think, down to almost like 2.5 volts if you want. So that's fine, the standard. And then the current cutoff start is when it starts. The voltage cutoff start is when the board starts slowing down, not using as much power when it hits around 40. So it's gonna slow down. All right, that's good, right? Hit right, and that's written. RPM, very, very important. Every VESC has its ERPM limits. You can calculate this by multiplying your nominal voltage. So this is, I think, 46 times the number of kilovolts. So I'm using Flipsky 6374 190 kilovolts. So 190 times 46 times 7. I get 61,000. Alright, so you could set it higher, but what will happen is if you go higher than like around 60,000, your motor will start stalling and be like, too much power, shut me off, man. So set this, I'm gonna start out like 50,000 just to be safe. Always you can start with lower numbers, and then later on, after you test everything working, you can raise this higher, but this should be plenty. Go ahead and hit right. That's very important because a lot of people just set it up. They don't, because VESC Tool app or VESC Tool software will default to these really high values, which is the only thing you gotta watch out for. Wattage, you could just leave it because most of the controls, once you set the current voltage, RPM, you'll be safe within that parameter. So I just usually leave voltage, wattage alone. Temperature, you could usually leave it alone also. Advanced, make sure minimum voltage set to 8 volts and 57 volts. Like one time I messed with this and set it to like 30 volts and my board wouldn't go even though I have a lot of batteries. So make sure, double check that. That is really loud. It's got that nice high pitch. And you can see it shows you miles per hour. So it shows you amps used. It shows you the battery. So I'll definitely check this one out. But there's no you can't change the throttle curves or anything like that. I'm gonna test it out. If I don't like it, I might go back to the VX one. But this is pretty cool that you can see that. And my motor is working obviously real good here. Alright, have no trouble. So I think we're ready to go. I think the belt's a little just a tad too tight. But it shouldn't affect my rider. It shouldn't affect my ride. Yeah, it's pretty much ready to go. Let me go ahead and put it in the battery box. I'm not gonna ride it today because it's already dark, but I think I'm gonna call it a day for today. This part 2. So I basically got the motors mounted, belts mounted, working flawless. I do have a slight gap here. I just left it because so I have a little bit more clearance with the belt. Should be fine. Sounds like a beast. Got the Bluetooth module working. The battery's working real good. Now it's got to mount the battery
Part 3, we're going to go ahead and mount the battery, and also we're going to go ahead and mount the VESC onto the battery box with the bottom exposed, right? The heatsink exposed. That way we get cooling when we go up hills, steep hills, especially where I live. It's mostly steep hills. But yeah, so almost done. Really happy with the results. Sounds like a beastly. Look at that, dude. So with no load, it's going 43. So with load, it's probably easily go 35 miles per hour. All right, that's it for today.